Oh, hello. I hope I'm audible right now. We are so sorry for coming in late. We had test issues. And surprisingly, our talk is about tests, but we had test issues. So my name is Kendi. I'm a software developer here in Kenya. I love writing tests and community. I'm a Flutter Kenya co-organizer. So thank you so much, guys. All right, let's begin, Maureen.
Yeah, so, okay. Wait. Yeah, I'm Maureen Josephine, a software developer at Kiape. I'm also a community organizer for Flutter Kisumu, and we are having a joint presentation with Kendi. Welcome. So here is our agenda.
Okay, yeah, today we are going to talk about what is testing and what it entails, uh, what the state of test-driven development, why we should test our applications. Uh, we also have a sample demo and Q&A, you know. All right. So when you're writing your application, you need to write, have analysis or the requirements of that particular application. What are you going? How are you going to maintain the application from A to Z? So here's a little design that we came up with. So uh, we know that whenever you're writing an application, you need to have the design. Like, what kind of application is this that you're going to write? Is it like a learning application? Is it for entertainment? Is it for music? And then you structure down your design, and then you come up with the way of implementing each. Let's say, for example, the pages that you're gonna have. So you come up with an implementation method, and then as you're writing your application, you're gonna realize that it's growing to be more and more complex. So you need to like come up with to write tests so that test will enable you to like know when your application is breaking and how good your application is going through and how your users are using your application, and maintenance. So obviously you need to like maintain your application, but today's session are going to majorly focus on testing and why we need to do tests and types of tests in Flutter. So what is testing? As I stated earlier, uh, when your application is growing, it becomes more and more complex. Therefore, sometimes you might be writing something. Let's say you're running your application or maybe on your emulator, and I don't know if some of you ignore the warnings, but then still your application is able to run. But then when you write tests, obviously it's going to show you like where your application is breaking, the kind of warnings that you need to fix. It's literally going to show you like how you're going to go about your app. So if I could explain, I would say it helps your application be running as you add more features or change existing. And as we have explained here, it's the process of evaluating whether the actual software product matches the expected functionalities. This means that your user are getting the exact output that you expect, that you want the application to do.
Yeah, so here's how state of TDD comes in. So TDD is test-driven development, and we have like various research talking about why people should do tests, and they give an overview of samples of apps that were not tested and the the number of bugs that they have on production, and in turn the cost that the company have to go. So when you see this chart, we have like different companies. It's a chart written by, I think we'll provide the link, but it gives an overview of companies that did TDD. Of course, TDD takes a lot of implementation time, because after testing you find that it's not working, then you refactor, so the process is kind of long. So here is a chart of sample companies that did TDD and those that didn't do TDD, and how it increased their productivity. For example, IBM, we see it increased the effort by 19%, and this is 5 years ago. So and it also shows the language that they used to do this. So it states that uh, although TDD takes a lot of time to implement it, but it's cost effective for the company to avoid bugs on production. So we also have this book, Economics of Software Quality by Kapas Jones. So he talks about when working on projects and doing any other thing. He talks about how you should why you should consider the software quality, because in the long run you will incur like costs when you have like your programs or software breaking on production. So if you find time, you can also check it out. We also have this, yeah, the software quality and the economic value. So it shows an overview of different groups and different lines of code that were used to develop the apps in those particular group and the daily usages. So you find that we have like, for example, the pharmacists and the accountants. The daily usage is like 4 to 5 hours, and the package use is about 12. So you find that so many people are using these apps, and you can now figure out, for example, what if it breaks on production, what kind of loss the company is going to go through. So that's why it's important to consider like testing your application before releasing it on production, or passing the testing stage. So here is also a sample graph of apps that didn't do TDD, and the total hours used. You see that the initial hours used on TDD is where of apps with no TDD is less, and they 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 deploy them to production very fast. Sorry about that. Okay. Yeah, they deploy them to production very fast before
All right.
it's tested well enough. So this graph shows that although TDD takes a lot of time to implement, it's also cost effective in terms of catching the bugs on production beforehand. Yeah, so here we are going to show you how to implement the testing in Flutter, and Kendi will take it up.
In Flutter, we have three categories of app testing. We have unit testing, video testing, and integration. So in unit test, what this one does is it tests individual classes or functions. Like this one is not like that complex. It's like the beginning of test, if I would put it in simple terms. You test only individual classes and functions to see if they're functioning as you want them to do. All right, and then we have widget tests. So here we all know thing in Flutter is a widget. From the button, from the So how do you make sure that all your widgets are working well? And you want to test if a particular widget is okay or not. We can what a widget test does is a widget test test an individual test by mocking its dependencies. Alright, and integration test. Integration test is like the overall test of the application. So if, like, if you want to test the whole application, you do an integration test. Oh, and another thing I've forgotten to say is on widget test you can run it. You can, but then on integration test, if you want to like test everything, you just run flutter, sorry, flutter test, and everything, and they all run to test the whole application. Um, in unit test, if you could go to the next slide, the unit test, yes, it's a testing methodology done to individual classes, and they help verify the behavior of a certain function or a method or class. Widget test, it runs individual widgets and helps by mocking their dependencies. Okay, on integration test, so this test it tests the whole application or a larger component of the application. Okay? So why do we run tests? Why do we test our
Yeah,
application?
so testing helps in
Mm,
knowing like
Maureen,
what
if
we
you could go
expect
on on why we
at an
test
early
our
stage rather than deploying it and later on finding bugs on production or something. So for example, if we have maybe the Facebook app, when they were implementing it, and for example if they hadn't like tested all the functionality, for example the messaging bit and the notification, such that any person can see everyone else's messages, then that would run into they would have run into problems. So that's why they had to do the testing first before releasing the app. So testing apps helps us in being sure that the functionality we have is what we expect. And it also like creates like a high reputation, for example with the clients. If you like deploy or give out an app that's well tested, the client will be satisfied, and also in turn we'll have like loyal users who will be ready and be satisfied with the app and the app's features and functionality, because if one functionality is broken, then the user won't be loyal. So having these tests help us to gauge the loyalty of the users, and in turn it also boosts revenue for the company. For example, if you took like a whole lot of time do testing, although it takes like a lot of time, but in the end it will boost like revenue for the company, because the users will be appreciative of it, and in turn they will make use of it. So I think those are some of the reasons why we test apps, and also to avoid disappointments, especially after deploying to production. So we have a sample demo on what we did about testing, especially on Flutter. So in this demo, we implemented the unit test and the widget test. We will just show you in a moment. So I'm going to exit this presentation and navigate to the code. Yeah, and here is it. So this is a sample app that majorly shows the if you have done Flutter before, it's this sample app that shows how many. It's the one that is usually shown after you create a new Flutter app. This one that when you press the button, it increments it. So in this app, we're just going to show you like a simple test on on how to do like integration and widget test with this, because for example, if I press this button, I see it's 12, and if I press it again, it's 13. So in this test, we want to confirm that we want to test this functionality of the counter such that if someone presses it, it increments. So that's what we want to test, especially on the unit test, and Kendi will take us through it.
All right, so when you want to run a unit test, first what you need to do is you need to add the dependencies on the perspective YAML. On the dev dependencies, yeah, which is the one that's written test. That's the one that you need to add. And then you create a test file on the lib folder. On the lib folder, there is a class that we've called counter.dat. So in this counter.dat, this is where you create your class, and you see we have the class here and the void, both the value for incrementing and after you created your class, you need to go to the so with this all right, so here, so write the unit test, you need another name for the function, method, or class. So inside here, this is where we are declaring now the test. You see, like we have the package first. We have imported the test package, and we have the main function. We've written like now the test that we need to run. And then if you want to run this test on the terminal, or rather still here on VS Code, you can just press the run button, and then it should show you like if your test is running correctly.
So this command runs all tests, and
yeah. But if you want to write a particular command for this particular unit test, you need to write flutter test counter test.dat. So you need to like specify the specific test that we are running, which is the counter.dat that runs the unit test.
yeah, so that command just run this counter test. If you want to run like specific test, you just specify the way Kendi has said. But if you want to run all the tests, you just write flutter test, and it will run all the tests you have in your test folder. So for this, we have the counter test and the widget test. So when we write this flutter test, it runs all these two files. Yeah. Kendi, you can proceed. Yeah, this widget test runs is the test that performs the test on the widget.
That is that tests are defined using the top level test function, and you can check it. Yes, yes. So both of the functions come from the test package. So when you import the test package, it has like the test package and the expect function as well. All right. So if we could go to the next widget test. All right.
I'm already there.
On widget test, okay, there is the widget test that's missing, but let me explain it from how I. So on the test folder, you need to write like the widget, another widget test. You can call it. We write we. This is where we define a specific widget that we want to test. So okay, cool. All tests are passed. Great. So we have the we have so many things on this video test. So if I could explain a little of them, we need to build our app and trigger the frame. Mm-hmm. That is, we use the await.amp widget, and then we specify which application that we want to use, then my app, and then verify that our counter starts at 0. That we write expect. So the expect function shows us that, yeah.
So we can as well maybe change this, for example, if we change this that we expect this to find 1 and let us run it to see what will happen. So this is for the widget test. It's going to fail because the counter doesn't start at 1. Sorry. The counter doesn't start at 1. Here is the counter class where we specified that the initial value of the counter should be 0. But in the test, in the widget test, we are trying to say that it should expect 1. Yeah, so that's why this test is failing. You can continue, Candy. If I revert it back to 0, then run it,
Okay.
it will now pass. So this is majorly just trying to find out is what we have, what we expect.
Yes, exactly. Thank you, Maureen, for that. And our final test is the integration test. So on the integration test, we didn't write much about it because we had issues with running our tests. Currently, our tests also were not running well.
Yeah, but to give us a preview of that, so integration test majorly just tests the whole functionality. For example, if we want to test this whole app functionality about the counter incrementing and stuff, we write a separate file for it. So when you check the Flutter docs, for the integration test, you have to include the Flutter driver plugin that will help you navigate through. So if you want to learn more about the integration test, you'll just go to the Flutter docs and go to the integration test, you'll see how it's implemented step by step. But one thing is you have to add this Flutter driver plugin in the pub/spec YAML file. Then for that, you also write what you expect
Yes.
and
Also,
what is there. Yeah, proceed, Kendi.
yeah. Also, we will share this uh, link, the link to the GitHub. You can see like how we've implemented everything with all um, codes explained, so you can easily follow along.
Yeah, here's the
So, any
GitHub link.
questions? We
You can
open.
find it later on when we share the slides. So I think this was just a brief session on introducing people to Flutter testing and letting them know how to test. So if you have any questions, maybe you can let us know in the chat.
Also, if there are no questions, we will share our slides and the link to the GitHub repo.
Yeah, I think that's all for today. And thank you all for joining. And if you have any feedback or anything that you'd like to share, also maybe you can write it on the chat and let us know. Yeah, I think that's all for today.
Yeah. All right. For mocking dependencies,
Yes, can we proceed?
oh, sorry. Dependencies, we use Mockito. I don't know if that's the right pronunciation of it. We didn't go deep into that, but yes, that's what we use.
I think that's all for today. So if you want to learn more about this, you can we will share the link to the repo. Then maybe we can always build on it and learn together various steps on how to improve this. Thank you.
Thank you, Candice and Maureen, for your talk. It was a very informative talk. Sorry for the technical difficulties we're having. We're really glad to have you here today. And thank you so much.
Thank you for the invitation.
All right, thanks.
So, Gilton Bosco is asking, does Flutter work on CI/CD? Yes, it does. And thank you, Robert, for answering that. But yes, it does.
Yeah, you can also try to implement it maybe on GitHub CI or Travis or any continuous integration platform that you can use. And it will always show you like the coverage per line of code. So yeah, you can always explore that. Yeah,
All
thank
right.
you. Back to you.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you, Janice. Thanks for having us. If you have any other question regarding Flutter, maybe you can also reach out to our well. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, guys. See you.
So that's why